So greetings and welcome to the channel. For this video, I want to just open up and say that this might be a little bit of a long video, so I will have chapters for you to skip around and do what check out what you want to check out. But I wanted to revisit Ubisoft. It's been a while since I've spoken about them. There's been some news that I've been seeing on my feed. So I want to cover a couple of those topics. One, the lawsuit that's currently, that is going on relating to the game The Crew. It's like a racing game. Servers shut down. People are upset. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get into that. As well as this other deal that they had going on with the company Tencent, which was the major Chinese conglomerate company that was looking to purchase Ubisoft outright. So I want to talk about that as well. And maybe some Assassin's Creed stuff. So if this is your first time actually visiting the channel or stumbling on it, definitely I hope you consider subscribing by the end of this video. Anyway, let's just jump right into it. So this first article is from videogameschronicle.com. Ubisoft says players suing over the Crew shutdown shouldn't have expected to own the game forever. This argument stems from Ubisoft's decision to shut down the Crew last year. In December 2023, the publisher quietly delisted the Crew from digital storefronts and confirmed that the online-only game would be no longer playable as of April of last year. Quote, after almost a decade of support, we will be decommissioning the Crew 1 on March 31st, 2024, it said at the time. We understand this may be disappointing for players still enjoying the game, but it is necessary due to upcoming server infrastructure and licensing constraints. Two players impacted by the shutdown launched legal action against Ubisoft, accusing Ubisoft of violating California consumer protection laws. At the time, the plaintiffs claimed that Ubisoft misled players by, quote, telling them they were buying a game when in fact all they were renting was a limited license to access a game that defendants chose to maintain at their own noblesse oblige. The plaintiffs also claimed the product's packaging falsely represented that the Crew itself was encoded onto physical discs consumers could buy, or the digital files consumers could pay to download, when in fact the physical discs and downloaded files consumers paid for were more akin to a key they could use to open the gates of this remote server, which defendants could one day decide to fail to maintain. Now, as spotted by Polygon, Ubisoft is attempting to get the lawsuit thrown out, arguing that players should have never expected to own the online-only game indefinitely, even if they purchased a physical copy. Frustrated with Ubisoft's recent decision to retire the game, following a notice period delineated on the product's packaging, plaintiffs apply a kitchen sink approach on behalf of a punitive class of nationwide customers, alleging 8 causes of action, including violations of California's false advertising law, unfair competition law, and Consumer Legal Remedies Act, as well as common law fraud and breach of warranty claims, Ubisoft's lawyers wrote. Ubisoft claims that players should have had no expectation that they were purchasing unfettered ownership rights in the game. In an amended complaint from March, the plaintiffs claim that Ubisoft used activation codes for the game with a 2099 expiry, suggesting the game would be around long term, and that Ubisoft further broke California law by allowing gift cards to expire, something that isn't legally allowed to happen in the state. The plaintiffs claim that the Crew's currency system meets the legal requirements to be considered a gift card. Ubisoft has until April 29th to respond. Let me get rid of this right here. In response to fan backlash last September, Ubisoft announced plans to launch offline modes for the Crew 2 and the Crew Motorfest. Quote, we want to acknowledge that some of you voiced concern over the access to the Crew games, said Stephanie Bealey, Senior Creative Director of the franchise at Ivory Tower. Today, we want to express our commitment to the future of The Crew 2 and The Crew Motorfest. We are currently exploring different solutions and can confirm an offline mode to ensure long-term access to both titles. So I want to share my thoughts on this real quick before I move on to the next segment. You know, I've heard the saying many times where I think it goes, if buying isn't ownership, then piracy shouldn't be considered stealing. I've heard that many times, and in this situation, I'm inclined to agree. If you are buying a game, whether it's physically or digitally, it's understood that you have ownership. I mean, that's what, if I look up the definition of actual buying versus renting, buying is, you own the product. You can do with it whatever you so choose to, within the limits of the law. So when you buy a game and, the life of that game is tethered to that company's decision on keeping its servers running, that's not really buying. It's not really owning. You are basically, it's your use of the game is dependent on whether or not that company wants to maintain those servers. And this is the reason why when it comes to games like that, I'm always leery whenever I see online only, like you have to be online to play the game. I'm very leery of that because it's like, in the event that they happen to shut those servers down for whatever the reason is, that's it. The game is done. You can have the disc all you want. It means jack shit. And the people that invested their time and money into a game like The Crew, that's what they're going through right now. And whether you're a fan of the game or not, I played the demo a long time ago. It didn't really hook me. But it could set a dangerous precedent moving forward, because there could be other companies, and there probably are other games that are similar to The Crew in terms of if their servers just go offline, that's it for the game. And I don't mean games that are like, what's like those hero shooters, those free-to-play games. That's different. You kind of have an understanding that you're just playing the game to compete against a couple of people online. But when you're playing a game that's supposed to be a premium product, a storyline, and what have you, and you go out and buy it, you're under the impression that you own the game. And I just do think it is fucked up, and it just adds to another level of controversy that Ubisoft literally they just seem to step into controversy on just about everything. And this is part of the reason why a lot of gamers really don't trust the company. They don't like the company. And even if the game is good that they publish, people are just very leery. So it is a serious situation, especially as we've been seeing this dramatic shift in the gaming industry, where most publishers and developers are pushing us, the consumer, to buy things digitally, to buy things online, where sometimes you may not even have a physical copy of the game. And if there is, you have to pay a little bit extra for it. And so I just feel like that adds to that level of caution when buying something digitally. You may not own it, but it's like, even if you buy the disc, the disc is just a paperweight. It's like, okay, the disc just gives you access to a key to access that server. So I just feel like this is not the right way to go about it. I would very much like to see that particular business practice go away, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I guess we'll see what happens in the future. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Personally speaking, I can tell you right now, if I'm buying a game, I want to know whether it's digitally or the physical copy, that I own the game and that it will live on should the servers go down. Now, I can understand if there's a multiplayer aspect to it. Naturally, if the servers are cut, I won't be able to play online with my friend or what have you, but I should still be able to access the single player. If it's a fighting game, for instance, I can access the practice mode. I can do that. So I don't know. It's a crazy situation, man. But anyway, let's go to the next segment. So this article is from Game Rant, and basically Ubisoft shareholders demanding renegotiation of Tencent deal. So pretty much says here, some Ubisoft shareholders want the company to renegotiate its recent deal with Tencent, expressing concerns over unclear benefits. Assassin's Creed Shadows has been one of the best selling games of 2025, but Ubisoft is still struggling from recent financial hardships. Shareholders also want to limit the voting power of the Guillemot family, who founded Ubisoft. Goes on to say here, a coalition of Ubisoft shareholders has demanded that the company vote on renegotiating its recent deal with Tencent. Tencent has held a growing stake in the company behind AC and Far Cry for years now, and its involvement in how the business runs has ramped up amid recent economic troubles. While the deal originally looked promising for the future of Ubisoft, shareholders are questioning how much it'll actually benefit the company. In late March 2025, Ubisoft announced a new Tencent-backed subsidiary that would take over the Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six franchises. While the subsidiary would still be under the Ubisoft umbrella, it would put these titles under new leadership, and Tencent would control 25% of its stake, far more than the 10% it currently owns in Ubisoft as a whole. Now that markets have had a chance to react, a group of investors is calling for a renegotiation. In an open letter acquired by Insider Gaming, minority shareholder AJ Investments and a group of other investors announced it has reached out to French courts to compel Ubisoft to hold a vote over two resolutions regarding the recent Tencent deal. The first is to restructure it as a direct asset sale for at least 4 billion, I'm assuming that's pounds or euros, which is roughly the deal's original value, which would clarify the terms and offer more insight into how it would benefit shareholders. I think that's fair. Ubisoft and Tencent had already announced plans to split the company earlier this year, but investors apparently had little clarity on how doing so would be a net positive. Okay, so Ubisoft shareholders demand a vote, blah, blah, blah. The second resolution would require Ubisoft to distribute 3 billion, I don't know, euro or pounds from the Tencent deal directly among the shareholders at a rate of 23 per share. Another 1 billion would go toward covering the company's corporate net debt. These terms would ensure that investors get an immediate payback from the deal and offer some financial protection for Ubisoft going forward. While recent trends have shown some positive signs for the company, with AC Shadows becoming one of the best-selling games of 2025 so far, paying down debt and trying to avoid future financial troubles is likely still important to shareholders given poor overall performance in recent years. Interestingly, the letter also mentions limiting the voting power of the Guillemot family, who founded the company. During the initial talks with Tencent, shareholders wanted the Guillemots to retain control over Ubisoft. So this represents a slight change of position among investors. How the vote will proceed is unclear, but there may be some changes on the horizon for Ubisoft and its shareholders. So I just want to kind of just share my thoughts to that real quick. I remember hearing about that deal that they created like a subsidiary to, pretty much handle the the Assassin's Creed, the Far Cry, and Rainbow Six franchises. I wasn't aware at the time just how much percentage-wise Tencent would have. I'm seeing now it's 25%, which is it's basically a quarter of the ownership. You know what? I think it's fair if you are a shareholder in a company. I think it's fair that you have some kind of understanding of the deal the CEO is putting the company that you are investing in, so that you have an idea of what's happening. You know what I'm saying? That's like, if I have a vested interest in something that I helped you get off the ground, let's say if I helped you start a business and I'm contributing to that business behind the scenes, I think it's not unfair to say that I would like to have an understanding of the direction you are taking the company in, because I'm partly connected. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that's unreasonable by the shareholders. It's going to be interesting to see how that whole thing pans out. But I will definitely say 100% that the only reason why Ubisoft is even in this position to begin with is because of all of the bad decisions that they've been making in regarding to their games. I mean, I think if you have played or even followed any sort of Ubisoft news in the last couple of years, I mean, for me, it just seems like they just step into one controversy into the next. I know there's a lot of new subscribers to my channel thanks to a Tekken video I put out last week or so. But for the new people to the channel, I've been covering Ubisoft news a lot, when I was starting the channel. And a lot of news controversies surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows, for instance. That doesn't even work with this is Assassin's Creed. You know what I'm saying? Subtitle is Shadows, something that the samurai does not do. They do not specialize in assassination techniques, and they do not work from the shadows. So whether or not the Yasuke character, was a samurai or not, I just felt like just being a samurai in general for this game just didn't really fit. Now, that's a controversy that Ubisoft just walked into, and not including all of the other historical aspects that they got wrong about the game, which pissed off the entire nation of Japan. So when you factor in both of those controversies, it really just brought the game down, so much so that when I was doing my coverage for the game, it was like I was hearing more about the controversy than I was hearing about the game itself. And now that I've actually played the game looks amazing. It works fantastic on my Xbox. I've had a brief moment playing Yasuke at the beginning of the game. I like his gameplay, but I just feel if they wanted to really add the Yasuke character, it would have been better just to have him as DLC, and they could have just prioritized Naoe's story in the game. I feel 100% she could have carried the game on her own, given just looking at her story as a whole. And throughout the game, the way I would have had it was throughout her adventure and getting revenge, her playthrough, she would encounter Yasuke during her travels. They would have some, exchange words, but then she would go her way and he would go his way. And then, you wouldn't necessarily know what he's getting up to. And then later on, maybe a year or so after the game's release, Ubisoft unveils the DLC. Now you can utilize Yasuke, and then they can fill in those gaps later. I've seen many games do this approach, and I think it could have worked. And also issue a public statement further saying that, look, this is our reimagining of the Yasuke character. We understand there's a great debate on whether or not he was a samurai or not. This is just our interpretation, and we hope you enjoy our game. I feel if they would have done it that way, a lot of that controversy on the Yasuke character would have been put to bed, and the game, in my opinion, would have been much better received. Because I believe currently, if I were to go and check this out, let me look at the Steam numbers real quick. Right now, as you see, there's like over 14,000 people playing the game, 22,000 peak, and all-time 64,825. I'm willing to wager that all-time peak would have been much higher if the controversy surrounding the game did not exist. That's just my opinion. But that's open to debate. Like I said, there's many people that don't like that I say that, my belief that Yasuke was a DEI inclusion. And that's fair. I can understand that. I just feel that if you're going to go that route with this character, I just feel that he would have done much better. He would have been much better off as DLC. And I think he would have also made a huge impact. But having him as a protagonist at the game's, at the game's launch, and I just think that that wasn't the right move, and especially when there was so much controversy surrounding whether or not he was a samurai or not. I think that was a landmine that Ubisoft didn't have to step on. And again, to reiterate, if they really wanted to go along with the character, issue that public statement saying, look, this is our imagining of the character, and so on and so forth. But I'm interested in knowing what you have to say about that. Ubisoft has pretty much all of the issues that Ubisoft is going through is of their own making, as far as I'm concerned. Even if I just look at just one more thing here, if I look at their stock, where do I have it over here? Yeah, so we got the stock right here. So the market closed April 11th at the time of my video, which is April 13th. So you can see it's like, look, this is horrible. For an independent company, fine, but this is Ubisoft, and you can see, even if I were to go, let's say if we go to 5 years, right? You can see if I scroll here, what does it say? February 1st, 2021. On this particular day, the company opened at $83.24 and it closed at $84.60. And this was 5 years ago, basically. Well, 2021 was like 4 years. And, and you contrast that with today, it's such a huge decline that, it was clear that Ubisoft was going to be in dire straits, and other companies were going to be vying for, to purchase them outright, which, Tencent is in lead to do that. So there's no real love lost for me when it comes to Ubisoft, but I really did want Assassin's Creed Shadows to do well, because it was a game that really brought me back to the old Tenchu Stealth Assassins experience that I've had years ago. And, I feel that the game is in an okay place, but all of the controversy surrounding the game and surrounding the company, and with the situation with the crew, with the lawsuit and everything, it's like you could throw a rock in any direction, and it seems like you could just hit a Ubisoft controversy. And it's a shame. It's a shame to see a once powerful company just cut down just by their own actions. You hate to see that. I hate to see it, but it is what it is. But anyway, if you weren't currently already subscribed, hopefully this video made you a subscriber. Stay tuned for future content. Probably going to look to put together something Tekken related. I think everything I said about Tekken in regards to their Tekken 8, the season 2 situation, I think I mean, unless I beat it over the head like a dead horse, I don't know how many ways I can talk about that situation. So maybe I'll speak about something else regarding Tekken. I still have to lend my thoughts to a follow-up on the Nintendo Switch 2 situation. But anyway, there's a lot of work to get done. Content creator, I'm so happy to be over 500 subscribers. Thanks to everybody that has subscribed, tuned in. And anyway, I'm out. Let me go and edit this video. Take care.